So hello and welcome to CMQs, the Scottish Sun's politics show. Some of you might remember when we had Anna Sara and also Kate Forbes virtually come into this room and be grilled with quick-fire questions. We introduced at that point the big scary red buzzer of waffle, and it is making its return today. And the reason why is because with me, I'm Conor Matchett, Scottish political editor, is the new Scotland Secretary, Ian Murray. Ian Murray, welcome.
How are you? Great, and slightly nervous of your buzzer.
Good, so you should be.
Is that a short enough answer?
Yeah, that's perfect. See, no use. I'm going to be kind with timings. In some places, we'll be tough on others. We'll start off with an easy one. We'll have about 10 minutes. But how are you finding, you've waited a long old time to get in there, how are you finding being in Dover House?
Loving it. The responsibility is big, the privilege is huge, the entry is bulging, but actually it's getting stuff into that outtray, which is really quite good. Prime Minister's been clear, Scotland is at the heart of this UK Labour government, we've seen that already, and really enjoying it.
Fantastic. Well, before we get into the more fun questions, we'd be remiss not to mention the big story of the day, which is obviously the news at Grangemouth. Shortly after you were elected, you told people that there was very positive news to be coming and that it was a major priority of the UK Labour government. Obviously, that's not happened. Could you have done more, you and the Scottish government together?
Well, look, the first briefing I got first thing on Saturday morning after being given the keys to Dover House was to have a briefing on Grangemouth. Myself and the Secretary of State, Ed Miliband, got together with Gillian Martin, the Cabinet Secretary in Scotland. We've worked hand in glove. Michael Shanks is obviously the Scottish MP, is the Energy Minister, new Energy Minister. And we've done everything we possibly can. This is a commercial decision from PetroNeos to close the refinery. They announced it in March. It's no surprise. It was a matter of when, not if. But we did have some positive news. We jointly funded the Project Willow, which is about looking at the future of the entire Grangemouth site. Of course, the refinery is a key component of it. As we've said today, there's a big funding package in there. We've got the growth deal through, the Falkirk Grangemouth growth deal. That's £100 million. Well, 80 million plus an extra 20 on the basis of what's happening at Grangemouth. So there is a positive story about the future. The short term is difficult. I can't imagine what the workforce are going through today with their families in the local community. That is really disastrous. But we have to work together with the Scottish Government, and we have been working hand in glove to get a much more positive future. Project Willow should give us the basis for that. The National Wealth Fund and the Secretary of State, Ed Miliband, has said that we would help fund what that wants to achieve. And therefore, there is a long-term positive future for Grangemouth, but the short-term stuff is pretty disastrous for the workforce.
Was it ever on the table to do a kind of, our readers and viewers will be familiar with the nationalisation of like Ferguson Marine and money being pumped into BiFab. Was that any prospect of the UK government getting involved and taking on Grangemouth to keep it going until there was a green future and keeping those workers there?
It was never a possibility because it was never an option that the companies, I understand, that were ever willing to countenance. They had made the commercial decision to close it, and there was no turning that around.
So when they announced in November, it was doomed?
I think that's a perfectly reasonable assessment to come to. Now, we've left no stone unturned. We've only been in 9 weeks. I wish we'd been in 9 years. We might have been able to do something about this. But given that short time scale, given the way the company wanted to close the refinery and given the circumstances that we found ourselves in, we've done everything we possibly can. I think the package of measures that we've got in place for the short, medium and longer term are positive, although it starts from a foundation of a pretty poor and a pretty dreadful story.
That 20 million quid, that extra 20 million, you really think that's enough? That feels like small fry for something as big and integral to the Scottish economy as Grangemouth?
Well, this is about Falkirk Grangemouth growth deal, so it's about a whole host of things. It's about skills, it's about just transition, it's about the clean energy future, and it's a commitment from both governments jointly to do something about the long-term future of the entire site. Grangemouth is an incredibly important piece of industrial infrastructure for our clean energy future, and therefore it's really important to make sure that that's done properly. Project Willow, which should conclude by January, will give us hopefully a blueprint of a way forward.
Right, you can relax now, so it's easier questions than that. We'll start off with what would you prefer, Hearts to win the Premiership or for Labour to win in 2026? Only one can happen.
Only one can happen?
Only one can happen.
And would Hearts win the league before 2026?
Yes.
It's a very difficult question, isn't it? I suspect, given its Hearts, we would sneak the election and lose the league very late on.
So you'd prefer to see Scottish Labour winning 26 over Hearts winning the league?
No, for the sake of the country, I'll sacrifice my football club.
What about Hearts winning versus you becoming Prime Minister?
I'll take Hearts winning the league any day of the week.
Just because prospects of prime ministerialship are so far away, or
I just think it's an impossible and difficult job. But I'd rather see Hearts win the league.
Yeah. What's the strangest thing you found in Dover House? Obviously, Keir Starmer moved his portrait of Thatcher. Have you had any portraits of Alistair Jack hanging over your shoulder?
Not yet, no. But there are portraits of all other secretaries of state downstairs, as you know. Yeah. What's the most? It's haunted.
Is it haunted?
It's haunted. It's Lady...
The ghosts of Alistair Jack?
No, the lady... It's haunted by Lady... somebody. So it is haunted. What's the most surprising thing that I've found so far? I don't know if there's been anything surprising. I've been utterly blown away. And I don't know why I'm not surprised by it, because it was expected by just the team in there are just great. Mm-hmm. So it's been really good. And Scotland has gone to the heart of this UK Labour government, and therefore it's great.
Yeah, there's too much on messaging.
Oh, well,
sorry.
It's not a message. It's just a statement of fact. And I know that journalists like statements of fact.
David Mundell wanted a cat back in 2017 in Dover House. I believe there was a mouse infestation problem. Are you going to get a cat to deal with?
I have asked for a mouse catcher.
Oh.
We've discussed this in the private office. Uh-huh. The difficulty is there's nobody in the building on a Sunday.
So the cat would go hungry?
So the cat would go hungry.
But surely he's got the mice to live off.
There's a lot of living. That'd be a very fat cat. But given I've tried to have a relationship with Larry, that's not quite worked.
Yeah.
I stroked him once. I'll never do that again. And the Cabinet Office cat, it just doesn't move.
Sorry,
I'm not even sure it's alive.
Did Larry come back at you? Did he strike?
He didn't strike, but you could tell he was none too impressed with my initial attempt to stroke him.
That's interesting, because we saw him in Number 10 as well as a lobby group on Monday, and all of the journalists got particularly lovely reaction. It must be something about politicians.
Well, it might be just a reflection of himself. You're journalists are his shadow.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Celtic or Rangers?
Neither.
Okay, but you have to pick.
Neither. I'm not willing to pick.
Not willing to pick.
No, not willing to pick.
Favourite Oasis song?
Favourite Oasis song?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. There's lots of great. These questions are great.
Yeah, they are good. Come on.
I don't know.
Were you in a queue buying tickets at any point in the last 2 weeks?
No. No.
Square or link?
I'd like to go, but I wouldn't sit for days trying to get tickets.
Would you accept a freebie if they offered you?
No.
I'll
leave the tickets for other folk. Yeah. So my wife went to Taylor Swift, you see, at Murrayfield.
Yeah.
And the madness around Taylor Swift has put me off, for a long time.
Forever. Yeah.
In fact, we had our manifesto launch the following Monday.
You did,
and there was pink feathered boas still everywhere.
Yeah. And
none of them were
friendship bracelets being handed out as well by you guys.
Yeah.
What about Taylor Swift then? What's your favourite Taylor Swift song?
I don't know. Don't answer that question. Maybe I don't know is a title of one of her songs.
Yeah, it could easily be. Steve Clarke, should he stay or should he go?
Stay for the short term. Mm-hmm. See how he gets on the next few games.
Are you happy with how Scotland have been playing?
I think our expectations are always too high.
Yeah.
Disappointed with the European Championships. I thought it was a missed opportunity, particularly in the game against Hungary. I think we should have gone all out and tried to win the game. Bitterly disappointed that Lawrence Shankland didn't play. And but we are at a different level now. We're in the top group, the Nations Leagues, and that will have its challenges. And but for the flick of a coin, we could have certainly got a result against Poland and certainly got at least a point in Portugal.
Absolutely. And what's your biggest mistake in politics?
Doing this podcast.
Well, it was funny because I was going to follow that up with, was it that Union flag jacket?
Well, I don't know if I can tell you the story about the Union flag jacket. You press the buzzer. There's a company called Unisuits. Under Oppo Suits, it's called, and they always have a stand at Glastonbury. And I was essentially, if I took a photograph of you, I could get a suit made up with your picture on it.
Aye, sure. Yeah.
Why anybody would do that? Unless you're trying to scare away Larry the cat, who knows? But he then said, "What size are you?" And I went, "I think I'm a 42R." So he took the Union jacket. Well, this is a 42. I try it on. So I tried it on, took a picture with Pamela Nash, the MP in Motherwell and Wishaw, and after 6 pints of cider, stupidly tweeted it out. So the moral of the story is don't drink, don't wear a Union Jack jacket, and make sure that Pete Wishart doesn't see your tweet.
Brief, because we've not got long left, brief question that I think our listeners will want to hear is it's been a bit of a gloomy start to the Labour government. How long is that gloom going to hang about?
Well, it's not been a gloomy start from the government. We've done loads of great things. GB Energy, renters reform, re-regulation of the buses, nationalisation of the railways, etc., etc. So it's not been that gloomy. The inheritance is very gloomy, and the previous government should be ashamed of themselves of what they've left this current government to deal with. Last
question, because we are out of time, and in the interests of rebuilding relationships between Scotland and the UK government, as I know you're wanting to do, who's your best friend in the SNP?
Great question. Well, it was Ian Blackford.
Yeah?
Ian Blackford used to get on well, purely because he had an inferiority complex because he's a Hibs supporter.
Ian Murray, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back soon, but goodbye.